The time-honored tradition of the sleepover, a wonderful time for ghost stories and spooky games. On this episode of Speaking of Spirits, we're talking about spooky sleepover games.
Hi everybody, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and I'm here with my sidekick Tim, and Zach,
Hello,
and Carrie.
Hi.
And for our Halloween podcast this year, we are going to talk about scary games that you can play.
Or
with your
horror
friends.
games.
Horror games. So each of us are going to take a game or two, and we're going to talk about them. And I want to know, at the end of this podcast, I want you guys to tell us, what have you done? So let's pick a game. So here's one called Cat Scratch. It's a scary game for kids to play at sleepovers. It involves telling a scary story about a cat. The game is also known as Cat Scratches and Black Cat Scratch. You need at least 2 people, or as they say on this website, toe people, to play Cat Scratch. You sit down on the floor. Your friend lies on the floor on their back with their head in your lap. Everyone else sits around the circle. You rub the person's temples in a slow, soothing motion as you tell them a scary story about a cat. So you have all of these different stories that you can tell, right? And then as then the person gets up, so you can tell it. There's all these different stories you can tell. You can actually read a story to them if you want. For instance, there's this one. You're walking through a dark alley late at night. You're the only one there. The ground is slick with rain. The alley is filled with garbage cans and litter. Then you hear something of movement in the garbage cans. You pick up your pace. You want to get out of the alley fast. But then you see something. Red eyes. Glowing red cat eyes. The eyes of an enormous cat. You run, but the cat chases you and jumps on you. It scratches you. 1, 2, 3. Cat scratch, cat scratch, cat scratch. Then the person who's laying down gets up really quickly, and you pull up the back of their shirt, and they have red claw marks that appear on the person's back, and they won't have felt a thing.
Something similar like that happened to me at Skinwalker Ranch.
Really?
You were there.
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah, talk about it.
So, there I was,
There
innocently looking for unidentified flying objects.
All right.
And I look over, and I see red eyes. And I said,
That's true.
"Oh, okay." And I looked over and said, you guys see that?" They looked, and nope, didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything.
So a few minutes later, I looked over, and I saw the eyes again, except they were taller.
Oof.
And I was like, "Hey, look!" And they looked.
Didn't see it.
Didn't see it. Didn't see a darn thing. And so I was like, all right, third time's not a coincidence. So sat down, we were looking at the UFOs, and I saw it again. And so I didn't say anything this time, because I didn't want to say
Did you see it?
anything. I walked over with the light, looking everywhere, and at this point, they were saying, "Tim's gone crazy." And I was looking, and I couldn't find anything. Couldn't see anything. Nothing. And so I went back to the chair, And that's about the time the cat came to say hi.
He was a kitty cat.
He was a kitty cat.
So he's looking up like 7 feet tall. He's like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "I'm looking up there," and I'm like, "No."
Well, there was a canal, and I think it was down in the canal the first time, and then it jumped into a tree.
That's what he says. That's what he said. I was the only one drinking. Just saying.
Oh, that is.
He had me going there for a minute. I'm starting to look around with my flashlight. I'm like, "What the frick is out here?"
It had me going for longer than a minute.
Yeah, and then the key cat.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute. What you got, Terry?
Well, I was a good kid, but my brother was not. He was a couple years older than me, and one of the scariest moments of my life, I was probably 7 years old, and my mom had a mirror in the closet, and we lived in one of those little teeny tiny trailer houses, little tiny bedrooms, whatever. And my loving older brother and his friends put me in the closet and shut off all the lights and told me that I had to say, "Bloody Mary, come and get me," 3 times. Well, I had heard them talking about Bloody Mary earlier and all the horror stories that go with it. So rumor has it, because it did not happen to me, just so you know, I just bawled my way through it. If you look in a mirror, I think a lot of people use the bathroom, I'm not real sure. But you're supposed to stare in a mirror, lights off, and say either Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. I think there's different versions of it, but my brother made me say, "Bloody Mary, come and get me," because he wanted me to go away. So, it did not work, just for everybody's information. But then apparently after you say it after the 3rd time and then you flip on the lights, you're supposed to see her in the mirror. So, yes. And when you're 7 years old, that's very, very traumatizing. But I've never played it again, but I know a lot of people still know who Bloody Mary is.
Oh, yeah. Well, they've had a few movies out about it. So.
Oh, I haven't watched those. Maybe I better watch one of those this week.
Yeah. What you got, Tim?
So, I was trying to give perspective to the group. I was an only child for a long, long time. And even when siblings did show up, I was 17. So I didn't really get the social dynamic. In fact, I was always an awkward protector. So for example, like in 6th grade, I was right at 6 foot, 200, 220, right in there. Big guy, 6th grade. And so that's about the time that the girls tried to flirt when they're like playing the tag games and things. I didn't understand that social dynamic. So I just would stop the guy from getting her. Right? So those are the cards I'm
kids
playing
with
with.
broken arms.
Well, exactly. So I didn't get it. So fast forward a few years, and turns out Cars and I get along swell, and I played in the mountains and 4-wheelers, and like we just talked about these games and like the Ouija board and all of those things. I just didn't do it. So,
but he broke a lot of arms.
So many. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I still hold the fire station record for amount of broken sternums.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
You're welcome, City of Chubbuck. So, with all those things being said, I think the scariest thing that I ever played, with quotations, is Ring Around the Rosies.
I guess if you conjure in the during that.
But do you understand what the words to Ring Around the Rosie?
And that's
from the Black Plague, right?
From the Black Plague.
But when I was a child, I didn't know that.
No, nobody did.
I was older.
No, I don't. I think they purposely don't tell us that.
Right. Well, yeah, and you get to find out when you're older. You're like,
oh my God.
And we played that.
Yeah.
That's a catchy tune
Ashes,
for the plague
ashes, we
doctor
all
to
fall
come
Well,
to
down.
think
Grandpa.
about all of the Grimm's fairy tales. They're dark. They're very dark.
I love
yeah.
watching those, though.
Yeah.
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 And so when you boil most of those down, like
Rockabye Baby.
Rockabye Baby,
Yeah.
heck, even the Tooth Fairy, like all of those things,
They're terrifying.
they're terrifying. They are. and they're still here around in our kids' lure, and
Right.
so like when these scary the horror games, man, they fold right into childhood, don't they?
Yeah, I forgot about ringing around the rosy, but I remember
Yeah.
when I found out what it actually meant. Because when you're a kid, you just got your cousin's hand, you're playing ring around the rosy.
Yeah.
Pocket full of
And your
rosy.
parents are all like
Ashes.
crying.
We all fall down.
Yeah.
Good job, little Timmy.
I know.
Pretty scary. Social
Okay.
dynamic. I guess that's the real devil.
Do you
Right.
have anything that you played, Zach?
Oh man, nothing too crazy comes to mind. The only thing I can think of is back when I was a teenager, it was this thing in my friend group where it's like, okay, we all have to go to the local cemetery and we have to go knock on the witch's tomb. Because, the Pocatello Cemetery has actual tombs.
Right.
And there is this big rumor that if you go to the tomb at the very back and you knock 3 times at midnight, that you can hear a knock back. So it was always a thing for, everyone.
Did you hear it?
No, we never heard anything.
No.
But, everyone would go knock and then we'd run off. And it was fun.
Well, here's a game we can all play called Red Door, Yellow Door. You ever heard that one?
No.
Yeah. It's a scary paranormal game to play at sleepovers. So maybe at the Enders Hotel.
I was
In
going to say,
October.
when's our next slumber party?
Yay!
So it's this ritual is known as, also known as Black Door, White Door, or Doors of the Mind. One person acts as a guide and puts you in a trance and leads you through doors and rooms in your mind. This is very Stephen Kingish. Okay? To play this game, you need at least 2 people. One is the guide, the other is a subject. People sit quietly. If there's other people, they sit quietly and watch. The guide sits down on the floor, cross-legged with a pillow on their lap, and then the subject lays down and puts their head on the pillow and closes their eyes. Okay? So, the subject raises their hands in the air and tries to relax, and their eyes must be closed throughout the game. The guide starts to kind of massage the temples and then chants red door, yellow door, any other color door over and over. If there are other people in the room, they can chant this too. When the subject feels themselves slipping into a trance, they automatically start lowering their arms, right? Because they're going into their hypnotic state. So, and that's the signal for the chanting to stop and the game begins. The guide asks questions, getting you to describe your surroundings and prompts you to open these doors. And whenever the guide asks a question, the subject answers it. So examples are you in a room? Describe the room. What color are the doors in front of you? And then the guide starts leading you through these doors. So you're supposed to open the door, go through them, and describe what they see. So there's advice for the game.
That's exactly how stare at goats. Help me.
Who stare codes?
What's
So
that called?
well, that's
Astro
projection.
Isn't that what they
But
do?
it's almost similar to past life regression because you do
Right.
have people walk through a
Through
door
and describe what
Yeah.
and
it is.
describe what
It
Yeah.
sounds like a form of hypnosis that
It
just
is.
takes you into your subconscious.
It does, and that's what this is. So some of their suggestions are, if you're playing this, if the subject is encountering people in the rooms, it may be wise not to interact with them because you don't know who they are, right? They say usually they turn out to be evil, but they could be just the dead, right? Or people we've encountered. I don't know. If you find yourself in a room full of clocks, leave immediately because clocks can trap you. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that. To me, that is a superstition.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any fact base around it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's one of those. And of course, with every superstition, I believe that there was facts.
Yeah,
that's how the
yeah,
superstition
right.
began.
You can go wherever you want, but it's better to go up than down. So I guess they're meaning stairs. If you encounter stairs, you go up. Light things and light colors tend to be better than dark things or dark colors. That's what they say. If you become trapped in a room, you will have to try to wake up or you'll be trapped forever. So I think that leads to, like, somebody like me who's easily hypnotized. If you don't have somebody who can bring you out, that could be harmful.
Dangerous.
It can be very dangerous. They say that if you die in the game, you could die in real life. I don't know. I don't know. 'Cause I don't know who's ever died in the game. So I don't know. If you have died in a game, please do. If you encounter a man in a suit who makes you feel uneasy, you should end the game immediately. I don't know why we pick on men in suits. I'm just saying. Because a lot of times men in suits are perceived very negatively, and I don't know where that comes from. I really don't. I mean, through history, I don't know where that comes from.
And suits are really expensive.
They're very expensive. So, in an emergency, if you're unable to wake up, it may be necessary for the guy to shake you roughly until you awaken. Anyway, so there's there's a board that goes with this on people who have played these games. And one lady said, last year, my friend and I and a couple of friends played this. And everybody loved the game, but quite often there'd be people who saw a girl who looked like our old music teacher, except with a lack of eyes and a face. I don't know how you would distinguish that, being a music teacher, but okay, maybe she didn't have a face.
Look just like her, except all of the distinguishing features.
It was really unusual. One girl encountered this music teacher demon thing who turned out to be a mermaid and did the worm.
What?
I'm thinking there was some tequila involved with this tonight, but I'm just saying.
Mushrooms.
Or mushrooms or LSD or something's going on.
I think that might
It
have
was
been
really
some shrooms.
entertaining, but I'm disappointed because it never works on me. Maybe it does and you don't remember it. Just saying. Because, you saw a lady without a face. A desk with a coffin under in which contained the play. Okay, she says there were some weird experiences. A desk with a coffin under in which contained the player and all sorts of freaky things. I have no idea. I think she's probably experimenting with things right now, but she's writing this, but I'm just saying. I really want to play it with more people and see everything that can happen with it. Well, it's guided meditation. That's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a form of guided meditation.
Yeah.
But you're leading people through doors. You never know what's going to be on the other side of the door. So I've done guided meditation with doors for spirit guides and stuff like that to see who was there.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. But I had an actual trained hypnotherapist who was a hypnotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not leaving me there with a dude in a suit. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
she's bringing me back. So
No matter how nicely tailored it
yeah,
was.
it could have been an Armani, but I don't know. Just saying. So that's one game. So Carrie and I were talking before the podcast, so we played Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board. And I played that a lot. And it was, you have to have, generally, 5 people.
I was going to say, I think the smallest amount I ever played it with was 5.
Yeah, because you need 2 people on either side, and the one person who's the subject, right?
The subject.
The subject. The person in the middle.
I was the person in the middle.
And we all took turns. We were camping. We were kids, and we had every year we would take our horses up. We grew up around Lake Tahoe, so we took our horses up in the mountains around Lake Tahoe, and we were up there for 2 weeks. But their parents, it was like a big, trail ride thing for a couple of weeks. It was awesome. But so all the kids would get together, and I'm the freaky one. So I'd say, let's play Light as a Feather. So they were like, okay, because they didn't ever, they weren't into freaky stuff. But I'm like, come on, let's do it. It's really cool. It's scary. But it was really cool because it works. And it really works. And it works so well that it freaks your parents out. That's how well it works. So you get the person who's lays on the ground. And then you just take 2 fingers. And you slide it, person's somewhere around the shoulders, person somewhere around hips, thighs. And you have the person in the middle. So you have 2 people on either side. And you get fingers, 2 fingers, under the person. And you can't lift somebody with 2 fingers, even 4 people. Mm-hmm. You can't do it. I mean, it's physically impossible. You try, and you can't do it. But so the person on the ground is eyes closed, and they're thinking about what you're chanting. And you keep saying, light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. And you get in about 2 or 3 minutes into this chant, all of a sudden the person's up. And they're up. They're we got shoulder high before our parents broke that circle, and the person came crashing down on the ground at the fire. They're they see this going on. They're, what the hell's going on? And they come running over. And you literally can get that deep into that meditative state that you lift that person up, and they were probably shoulder high.
Wow.
And we did it all the time.
No, it is. But, so in my experience, I was okay. So I had one person in front of me, one person at the bottom of my feet, and then I had 2 on each side. There was 5 of us there.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 underneath my hip, 1 up here, and 1 at my feet. And they actually was telling a really scary story, and then started saying "light as a feather, stiff as a board." So, like the story, you're listening to this, and your brain is going with the story, and then they start the light as a feather, stiff as a board. Well, it's fear. I mean, that's the way that I perceived it at that time. But I think what you're saying now, it makes more sense. I've never really thought about it again since then. But I never played it again after that, because they literally. I mean, I was. I was like,
yeah. Well, all of those kids would take turns as being who's in the middle, being lifted, but that we never did the scary story part.
Yeah,
it was just let's see if and it's that trans-like state everybody gets in, and it's like I don't know if they have superhuman strength or the power of the mind is like taking over, and all of a sudden that person
is light as a feather, stiff as a board,
and they're literally so stiff that they can't move, and you're just lifting them, and they're up in the air. It's not like they're hovering, 12 feet above you, but you do have your fingers. But when they come out of that state, if they're up in the air, they'll come crashing down, and that's what happened. Like by the time our parents figured out what's going on, and they all rush over there. Oh my God, you're playing with the devil and all this stuff. Yeah, whatever. Only my mom was cracking up because she knew what was going on, but everybody else was freaking out. But we were the weird family. So anyway, but those games, any game you play, Bloody Mary, you get into that hypnotic state. Mm-hmm. Things happen. So 2 weeks ago, Tim, we were at the Enders Hotel again in Cary, right?
We were indeed.
There's a mirror on the 3rd floor that everybody had experiences with. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine looking into that mirror and Bloody Mary, or whatever? Yeah. That mirror on the 3rd floor by the room 333, no matter who's there, they have experiences with that mirror. You take a mirror like that, because not every mirror does this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of mirrors in that hotel. Every room's got multiple mirrors. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking, I'm talking mirrors on the dressers and mirrors in the hallways and mirrors. I mean, every room has mirrors. Can you imagine? Carrie's like, we're doing this! But can you imagine taking a mirror that, for whatever reason, that particular mirror, everybody had some experience with that mirror. And it's usually not, you're usually seeing something going on in the hallway in the mirror that if you turn around, it's not there. But in the mirror, there's shadows, there's movement, there's figures, there's stuff going on. But not when you turn around and look down the hallway.
Tim doesn't like that mirror very much, for the record. So can I tell you about my latest TikTok rabbit hole thing?
Sure.
Good. So, I've been into pyramids for a whole real long time, like my whole life. And you'll never guess what I just recently saw, like last week. So they were talking about resonance and focus. And they were hypothesizing that the high priests in Egypt were the ones who built the pyramids. And exactly how you presented the stiff as a board, light as a feather, is what they had on the picture of them with the 2 fingers with a stone hovering.
Oh wow.
What? And they lift those up just by people using their power in their mind?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're giving that story, I was like, by golly.
Well, that's interesting, because I think that if you have a group of people together, particularly when and their intentions are exactly the same.
But that's what we was doing that thing over at Enders.
Yeah, that's true. But think of...
And we won, by the way.
Yeah, you did. But think if we all did it with one experiment.
Yeah, and if you had
we can.
So, power of the mind, right? You get a group of people together.
Mm-hmm.
You guys talk about... We were at the Enders 2 weeks ago. Or, well, by the time this podcast comes out, a month ago. But you guys picked... You had seen somebody...
On the stool.
In the basement the month before.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, what was your thing? So we had experiments for the night, and we broke off in teams. And what was your experiment?
We wanted that fellow to
Manifest.
present
We wanted the
himself.
manifestation there.
And we didn't necessarily get a human figure exactly, but we had a manifestation.
And it was documented through the
In
The thermal.
thermal, and we had a camera set up on it. I don't know if
I haven't seen anything on the camera, but the thermal got it. And we will put together a short video about that and what our experiment was, or what the experiment was.
And then the light that I had was shut off.
Oh, yeah. So the basement was very active, and we had the manifestation in that room because it was like the boiler room or area. And so we had on the thermal camera, so Tim and Carrie all night long put their energy towards having something manifest in the boiler room. And it did. So we had the thermal camera go green, and then all of a sudden everything started showing, it got colder and colder and colder and colder, and a blue door showed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then went away.
in a boiler room.
In a boiler room.
Wow.
So, and then it
Freddy
went away.
Krueger stuff.
Yeah, and then went away. And then later, on a different camera on the hallway in the basement, we had a reporter with us from East Idaho News, and they started seeing a blue manifestation down there. And so he kept walking up and down that hallway in the basement, trying to figure out where was it exactly. And Stacy was guiding him back and forth. And then she's like, right there, you're right on top of it. And he's kind of looking around to see. And whatever started manifesting took away part of his legs.
That was actually
thermal.
right after.
Wow.
Right after the okay. Yeah, that was crazy. So room 333, which is the most active, nothing was really going down. But we had other areas of the hotel where we had a lot of activity. So that was pretty cool. So the thought being, during these experiments, use a really haunted location to go ahead and help. Can we drive the manifestations? And so in these games, it's the power of intention. You got a group of people together, Bloody Mary, light as a feather, doing all the door, the guided meditation. You have a group of people together.
Bending spoons.
And yeah, can you drive it? And I think we all agree that you can create things to happen. So it's not, is it paranormal? I don't know. The mind, you don't understand the power of the mind. So there's a lot of websites with all these scary things that you guys can do over Halloween. And it's that collective energy put together towards one thought. Right? And if you haven't played Light as a Feather or Stiff as a Board, it's very cool.
And we've proved it a few times now, I feel. With the power of focus, intention, I guess. There's something there.
Definitely. So I want to know what spooky things you guys have done for Halloween, what spooky games you guys have played, and I would love for you to text it to me at 530-919-9534. That is our paranormal hotline, and you can text us and let us know what you've done. I just think it's really cool when a group of people get together. I mean, just remember that your intentions, you put that intention out there, you be prepared for those consequences, but the Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board one, you're not putting anything negative out in space. You're trying to collectively come together and make something focused in front of you happen. So, I mean, that's, unless somebody goes floating off into space and never comes back, then that would be kind of suck. But, anyway.
Build a pyramid.
Build a pyramid. That's such an unusual, I've never heard that.
Well, I tell you, once you get going in the TikTok rabbit holes, all of a sudden, a couple days later, you're looking for air.
I don't have enough time.
It lasts for days, huh?
Yeah.
So this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and we think this has been a great topic. Let us know what you've been up to this Halloween season. Signing off.
Merry
All right.
Halloween.
Meow.
You've been listening to Speaking of Spirits, powered by Pocatello Paranormal Research in Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad you could be here. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do us a favor and go to whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star reviews. This helps us know how we're doing, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.
Ha 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 ha!